Chicken here, and welcome to the 8-Bit Music Chicken Gaming Show. Now, in the past, I've done videos talking about video game controllers, showing my opinions on them, which ones I like the best, and things like that. But today, we are going to construct the world's best video game controller from scratch. But what do I mean by that? Well, let's say if you could take things you like from a range of different pre-existing controllers and mash them all together to make one new amazing controller. For example, let's say if you liked the shape of one controller but the face buttons of another, the thumbsticks of one or the D-pad of another, you can mix them all together, and we are going to do that and basically make the Frankenstein of video game controllers. So, I hope you enjoy. To make this controller, we are going to discuss what, in my opinion, are the best shape for the controller, the best D-pad, the best thumbsticks, the best face buttons, and finally, the best shoulder and trigger buttons. First of all, let's start with the shape of the controller. Now, there are a range of different comfortable controllers out there. For example, the Mega Drive controller is rather comfortable, so is the Xbox 360. But in my personal opinion, the most comfortable controller to hold, and that we're going to use for the shape of this new controller, is the Nintendo GameCube controller. It just fits into your hand perfectly, and the shape of where all the buttons and sticks are laid out is great. So that's why we are using this. Next, let's talk about which D-pad that's going to be on this controller. Now, when thinking about which D-pad I should use, I knew it had to be a Nintendo D-pad, because they make the best D-pads out there. But which one was I going to use? The Nintendo 64 one's pretty good, and so's the Wii U. But I ended up going with the Super Nintendo. This one is just really comfortable, and even in really intense gaming sessions, your finger always stays there. And also, it goes where you want it to go most of the times, and it's just a great D-pad. Next, we are going to talk about which thumbsticks we are going to have on this controller. And with this one, we're going away from Nintendo controllers a bit, and into PlayStation controllers. Now, these thumbsticks are pretty much the same with PlayStation 1, 2 and 3, but just for the sake of argument, here's the PlayStation 1 controller here. What I really like about these thumbsticks are the size, because some thumbsticks are just a tiny bit too small, like the Nintendo 64 thumbstick, that's really small, and even some other controllers today are a bit like that. For example, the Wii U's thumbsticks. They're good, but I much prefer the size of this one. And also, because of the surface, they're really easy to grab onto, and they work really well. But because we're using the GameCube controller as the shape to put this on, we can't really have them next to each other, and we're going to have them diagonal like the C-stick and the thumbstick are here. And I actually much prefer the layout of the thumbsticks on there anyway, so PlayStation thumbsticks, they're great. Next, we are going to talk about the face buttons we are going to use. And with this one, this was actually pretty hard to choose. I was debating whether to use the Wii U's face buttons or maybe even the Super Nintendo's, but I went with another one that I've already mentioned. The PlayStation face buttons. I like these because not only do they feel really good to press, but also the triangle, circle, square and X, they're actually really easy to learn where they are and where they are next to each other, so they're really effective with that. And I was considering if I was going to keep this same like diamond layout, because there are other layouts of buttons out there. For example, with the Mega Drive controller, they have the buttons all next to each other, and that's really good, but I've decided to just keep it as this same diamond shape, because with the majority of games, that's more effective. And finally, the shoulder and trigger buttons of the controller. Now with this one, I'll have to admit, I knew which ones I was going to use immediately, and that is the Xbox 360 controllers. And I don't have an Xbox 360 controller to show you right now, but just take my word for it. These are really good. The shoulder buttons just feel really good to press and are really responsive. And the trigger buttons really just fit into your hand great with the bumpers. And as well as that, it's easy to just know how far you're pressing them down. So with like first person shooters or racing games, that is fantastic. So that's why I've gone with the Xbox 360 controllers, shoulder buttons and triggers. Okay, so now we have all the ingredients that we're going to use with this controller. Now, let's put it all together.